Hello everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Alexis. For anybody who doesn't know, welcome if you're new, or welcome back if you have been here before. I am the author of A Journey into Truth, Unveiling Life's Secrets for Truth Seekers. Here on Vibrate to Create, I talk about all things spiritual and metaphysical. I also talk about my own personal life experiences, the awarenesses and life philosophies I've come to because of my experiences. I make reaction videos to things like spiritual teachers and spiritual teachings. And sometimes I also make entrepreneurial videos letting you guys know how to self-publish your own books. So if you're interested in that kind of content, then click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell to be notified of when I post new videos so you never miss a video.
People have their experiences, their opinions about everything in the universe. For example, before coming here, a whole lot of people calling him, Sadhguru, don't go on Joe Rogan, right? Well, no, he thinks this, he thinks that. Well, if he thinks I'm a chimpanzee, I will prove I'm a very good one. I'm saying, I have worked in prisons, like we have a program called Inner Freedom for Imprisoned. Both in United States we worked, but then we stepped out of US. In India, our programs are mandatory in all the South Indian prisons. I've worked with really hardcore criminals who have been convicted for murder and more. They have done terrible things, but when they are with me, they're such wonderful guys, lively and fantastic guys. But if you meet them when they're angry or dissatisfied, they may be terrible. If you meet them when they are happy and joyful, they are fantastic people. So I'm saying every human being has opinions about everything. This is one thing I've done in my life is, people who are with me for 25, 30, 40 years with me, right next to me, it's very difficult for people to understand this. I have not formed a single opinion about them. Every day I look at them fresh. This is very important, yes. So when I sit here, I look at you fresh. It doesn't matter what you have done, because what you are going to be tomorrow is what is important, isn't it?
When you're experiencing these prisoners, do you think that that's part of the problem with having had a horrible past, having been a criminal, having been a murderer, is that you can never really get past those experiences in a lot of people's eyes?
In my book, there's a section where I talk about an experience I had with this man named Jimmy Santiago Baca. And he came to my college, so this was in maybe like my second or third year of college. And at that time I had decided I wanted to be a writer, and so I was taking writing classes, and this was right before I was about to stop going to college. So in my creative writing class, we had this day where this poet was going to be coming in, and his name was Jimmy Santiago Baca. And so the first thing he did is he came in and he showed us all a video, and the video was talking about his life and where he had come from. And I think this was such a powerful video to watch before he would come up and speak, because we got to see pictures, we got to see things with music and feel the emotion and actually experience what it would be like to live in his life. And so we learned about his childhood and how he grew up on streets. He was an orphan. He had been, raised in such a tough environment that it led him into, being a drug dealer or being shot at. And through learning about his upbringing and what his environment had led him to become, it really led to so much compassion and an understanding of how our environment can really cause us to become what you would call a monster, or what we would call a bad person. So when he got up and he started talking in front of everybody and was telling us about how he went to jail, and in jail they would put him in isolation rooms and he'd be like in blackness for days. And at that point in time, he had to really go one of two ways. He could either go crazy and lose his mind, or he could step outside of his mind and actually decide to sit in the darkness and to realize, okay, this is going to end eventually, and relax into it. And I think he said that this man was writing him letters from outside of the prison, and it was actually someone who was volunteering to talk to people who were in prisons. And he talked to this guy, and somehow I think this man found out he didn't know how to read. And so this man sent him in a dictionary. And so Jimmy Santiago Baca, while he was in prison, he started learning how to read. He taught himself how to read and how to write. And eventually he got really passionate about making poems and actually using emotion to communicate something to the reader. And he said in an interview that one of his fellow inmates was, he had learned to become very racist towards Mexicans or people who were different than him. And it was going to be Mother's Day, so he asked Jimmy Santiago Baca if he could write him a poem to give to his mother. So Baca wrote a poem for this guy's mother, and he gave it to him, and then this guy felt very moved by this poem and was like, I can't believe someone like you could write something so beautiful for me. And so it brought these two people who would otherwise be enemies and could probably do a lot of harm to each other outside of this prison together. And so this was kind of one of the moments that really led Baca to understand the power that his words had and how communicating could be so powerful in bringing people together as opposed to violence or fighting with somebody. So it was a big turning point in his life. And eventually he was able to get out of prison. I don't remember exactly the dynamics of what was happening, but he got out of prison. And when he got out, he became very passionate about teaching this power of words, and he became an author, and he was writing books about poetry in his life and what he had experienced. And so to me, that was such an inspiring speech to hear about, because it was like a man who could come from such hard things, a man who could experience the worst of the worst in this world and could transform and decide to be a good person and to do good things in the world and to be a part of a prestigious school or to write books and decide he wants to do good in the world. Imagine what could be possible to change in somebody else's life by sharing your stories. And yeah, so that was very inspiring to me, and I felt very moved just by this guy's presence and learning about him, and gave me a lot more perspective about life and what we see as bad, what we see as a bad person, or what we see as a wrong person, and to really look at ourselves before we decide to judge somebody else as not being a good person. Because I think every single one of us has those moments where we're really frustrated, or we have moments where we're really upset at a loved one, or we say something we don't mean when we're really hurt. And offering grace to people who lose themselves in a moment, or lose themselves in, I've seen people who really loved each other really hurt each other as well. And it taught me so much about forgiveness, and how one person deciding to put down the armor and put down those, that anger, and to decide, I'm not going to fight with you, can really change the course of everything if you just make that choice to not react. Like Sadhguru was talking about earlier in the video, to not become what that person is, to not react to what they are doing, create this perpetual cycle of just anger, madness, and then till it gets worse and worse, till it escalates.
Because it's then a very American thing, this is a good guy, this is a bad guy. I don't look at life like that. It is just that in a given moment, if somebody makes one wrong judgment, he utters something or he does something in that moment, that may end up in the prison. I've met hundreds of them, thousands of them.
Yeah.
Most of them are absolutely wonderful guys. There are a few who are mentally, pathologically somewhere else, that's different.
Right.
But rest of them, it's a given moment, they make wrong judgments because that's all they know at that given moment. So I said, let me go and see who is inside. I want to work with them, about 28 years ago. And then I found it took me over 2 years to get inside. It's so difficult to get in, you need qualifications. I was not qualified. It took all kinds of permissions to get inside because this was a high security prison. Then once I got in, everybody said, all the prison officers who knew me, they said, Sadhguru, you're wasting your time here. Every Sunday, Christian priests come, all these guys do is mischief. On Hindu festivals, Hindu people come, they do more mischief. And Muslims come, more mischief, they're all sitting there like this, okay, who's this guy, who's come? You know, they have a certain… there's an anger and angst against the society which has locked them up. It's very difficult for people to understand what this is. I have not once I've gone into prison and come out without tears in my eyes, because everything seems normal on the surface, there is pain in the air. Just… this is so important for a human being to be free, you know.
Yes.
Just nothing else. Food is good, they get food better than probably their homes, everything is controlled, they're all very fit, actually much more fitter than the outside people. But there is pain in the air. Just… it's so painful. So I went there and we played a game with them. They were just surprised that I'm playing a game with them. We played dodgeball with the guys. Within about 10-15 minutes, they forgot they're in a prison like little children. They're screaming and yelling and playing like crazy. And then I told them, see, I want to stay here for 10 days and work with you. You won't believe 80% of them in 2 hours' time, they're all crying. They said, don't go, you stay with us.
Wow.
And then we started the program. Since then, continuously, last 27 years, programs have been going on. Most of them are, you know, school dropouts, they're not really very literate and educated. But they wrote thousands of poems. One guy who killed 3 people in the courtroom. So he was…
in the courtroom?
In the courtroom he killed 3 people. Some vengeance issue, you know. So he's on the death row. See, prison is quite a normal society during the daytime. It's evening…
We'll get some tissues.
evening 6 o'clock. They have to go inside and the doors are locked. Even if there's a medical emergency, nobody can open those doors unless a magistrate gives permission. The local officer cannot open the gate. Even if the guy is dying inside, it cannot be opened, no matter what happens. That's the law. So, he wrote a poem which stuck in my mind. He said, every day when the cell door closed, I thought this is my grave. But now I see it's become my Bodhi tree. When the door closes, I close my eyes and I'm in a completely different space altogether. This is my freedom. And now, after about 6 years, he was executed.
Wow.
And we also took local industry and promised them that, you know, when they come out, there'll be jobs for them. Those who can come out after a few years. Because in India, life term is 20 years, not life. And in 20 years, if there's good behavior, 14 years they'll get a remission. So many of them who have been there for murder, in 14 years' time they will come out. So nobody gives them a job, everywhere everybody looks at them suspiciously. So we set up the local businesses to include them into their factories and businesses so that they're not going to commit murder every day.
Anybody?
When you are joyful, will you go and simply beat up that guy? No.
No.
Something nasty happening within you, anger, angst, frustration, something. That's when you do ugly things, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is true for every human being.
Yeah, sure.
So, you just label somebody as a criminal. What you need to understand is this is a deep-rooted unhappiness or frustration or something that's built up because of social reasons or parental reasons or genetic reasons. There's so many, okay?
Yeah.
Not one aspect. Somewhere this life is unhappy, frustrated, angry. Now it wants to do something unpleasant. If this life is feeling very pleasant, why will it do unpleasant things? So this is all. We have focused too much in this world on trying to produce good human beings. Good human beings have caused terrible things. People who think they are good, they have done the worst possible things.
Right, there's a lot
Thinking
of
they are good. But if we focus on creating joyful and sensible human beings, a whole lot of trouble will go away in the world. This is what yoga is about, that you're pleasant within yourself. When you are feeling pleasant, you do pleasant things naturally.
that. Yeah.
Now,
Right.
the day you realize my unhappiness, the source of my unhappiness is me, not somebody else, and you take charge of that aspect, there is a method to do that. Once you do that, you're happy. Once you're happy by your own nature, then you will do what is most needed. Because once you're very happy, you have no pursuit of happiness. Your life is an expression of joy, not in pursuit of happiness. This is the shift that needs to happen in the world. Right now people are in pursuit of happiness. If your life becomes an expression of your joy rather than being pursuit of happiness, you will stop squeezing the world the way you're squeezing it.